The only one I can really think of is Superman. A lot of people seem to have this thing against Superman. It's like, oh, he's invincible, and oh, he's boring, he's one-dimensional, he's dull, he doesn't work in modern-day society. I've always felt like Superman is kind of like the ultimate symbol of hope. And that, to me, is kind of cool. I don't know, maybe I'm just old-fashioned, I don't know. But, I look at some of the superheroes that are popular now, and I'm thinking, if Captain America can work, and if Thor can work, I think Superman can work. So here's hoping the Zack Snyder movie turns out really well, because, I think Superman's due for a good movie. Well, nothing on my left hand, because I'm left-handed, so I need this hand to operate, at maximum efficiency at all times, because I'm left-handed. So if I had to pick one, I don't know. I like having, all 10 of my digits. But although technically, are thumbs fingers, or what's the deal there? Because I've heard both back and forth. I've heard that thumbs technically aren't fingers because A, they oppose the fingers, and B, they have 2 joints while the other fingers have 3. So the thumb isn't a finger. I've heard that. And I've heard others say that's complete and utter horseshit, and, if it's a digit on the hand, it's a finger. So, I don't know. Whatever the right answer is, just let me know. But, yeah, 1 finger to cut off on this hand. I need the thumb, because I need to hold things. I need the ring finger, because I need, that's going to hold my wedding ring one day. Need my index and pinky fingers to hold shit. And I kind of need this finger to flip people off, When I get pissed off at the state of professional wrestling, I need this finger to help. It helps me get through the bad stuff. And, if I ever run into Roland Emmerich or Dean Devlin or, other people that I hate, I kind of need that. So, yeah, I need my middle finger. I don't know which one I'd part with. I guess my pinky. You need the pinky, but I don't know. I guess that's the least important. Yeah, so that's my answer. Right pinky. There are a lot of movies I'm looking forward to this summer. I just saw Iron Man 3, and I really liked it. I thought it was very good. I think it's arguably the best of the 3. I hear a lot of people are split on it, but I really liked it. I thought Shane Black really, he basically made Kiss Kiss Bang Bang if it were a comic book movie, and for that I will always be grateful. I thought the movie was a lot of fun. So I was really looking forward to that, and it delivered. Superman, Man of Steel, I need to see that. I want to see Kick-Ass 2. I really like the first one, and I think there's a lot of potential in a sequel. Kick-Ass, the funny thing about that, I think it's the only comic book superhero movie I can think of where the movie is better than the source material, because I think the comic sucks. But I thought the movie was pretty good, so hopefully the second movie turns out really well too. Pacific Rim, I want to see that. It's a movie about giant robots fighting monsters, in the middle of cities and shit. So I'm really excited for that, obviously. The nerd in me had gone crazy for that one. God, I know there were more than that. Oh, Wolverine. I wasn't initially excited for that, but then I saw the teaser trailer and I heard, I can't heal. And I'm like, well, now I gotta see it. That's really interesting. So, yeah, there are a lot of movies this summer to look forward to. Hopefully they all deliver. The most trouble I ever got into in school, believe it or not, and keep in mind, I went to a Catholic school, so, all the way from kindergarten all the way through high school, and even into college. I went to a Catholic university, although the rules were non-existent in college. But the rules in grade school and in middle school and in high school were all very, 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 very strict. So it was very easy to get into trouble. Just as an example, we had something called silent lunch. I have never heard of another school doing that. That was in my grade school and my middle... Well, my grade school and my middle school were the same place. And I really do feel like that affected me badly because I did not know how to hold a conversation during a meal. Because I was not allowed to talk during lunch for 9 years straight. During those formative years of my life, I was not allowed to talk during lunch. And I'm dead serious. You would walk by the school cafeteria, and all you would hear is kids eating. And I was told years later that it was the creepiest fucking thing on the planet, because, you just expect, lunchrooms to be full of kids at school time to be noisy. And ours was dead quiet. You could hear a pin drop, and you would lose your recess if you so much as whispered. Or even I lost my recess once for making hand gestures to execute a lunch trade. That cost me my recess once. Dead fucking serious. I'm not even kidding. So it was very easy to get in trouble where I went to school. The most trouble I got into, trying to think. When I was in first grade, I went into the woods with a group of kids without supervision, and that was during recess. I got into a shitload of trouble for that. And because I was so young, I was like 6 years old, maybe younger than that. Maybe I hadn't even turned 6 yet. And I got into a lot of trouble for doing that. It kind of scared me straight to where I never stepped a toe out of line again. Not in like a really serious way. And it really kind of scared me straight. I never talked in class, never did anything again. It really kind of turned me into a giant antisocial pill when I was a child. And I look back on it now and like, really, I mean, I understand I, wandered away from supervision and went into the woods and stuff like that. And if I had gotten hurt, the school would have been liable. But I look back on it, it's like, is that, I could have done a lot worse. I'm just saying. I was like, all the bad things that I hear kids doing in schools now, and even at the time when I was a kid and all the things that kids, do in schools and shit, I was thinking, I could have done so much worse than going into the woods, and I let that the punishment from that kind of rule me my entire time in school. So yeah, I went to a very, very strict place, and those were the rules. And actually, a silent lunch, thank God, did not carry over into high school, because, different place, and the high school was somewhat sane, but it really affected me badly. Like, I got to lunch, I get to high school, I'm allowed to talk during lunch, and I have absolutely no fucking clue how to hold a conversation. It was just the strangest goddamn thing. And I can't speak for the other kids in my school if it affected them the same way. It probably didn't, but I kind of took the whole thing to heart, and I just kind of, for the longest time, I would just pipe up during meals. You would never hear a word out of me, and, yeah, my school damaged me, now that I think about it. It's amazing that I'm as, social and normal as I am today, but, See, I don't get that. I don't think I look like Jim Parsons at all. I think if you put the two of us next to each other, you'd see two completely different people. He's skinny as a rail. I'm actually kind of flabby. You can't really see it, and you've probably never seen a profile shot of me, but I'm actually kind of flabby. So, I don't think anybody in a million years would ever mistake me for Jim Parsons. And, but for some reason on these videos, I've gotten that comment a couple of times. And I don't see it. I think, the hair is completely different. I don't see any physical similarities between, Sheldon and myself. Maybe, and not even the voice. I sound too much like Mickey Mouse, and he's got the Texas accent. So, yeah, I don't think there are any similarities between us. I don't think anybody would mistake us for one another. I keep up with it on, ESPN and SportsCenter and stuff, but as far as actually watching the games, I've never been much of an NBA fan. It's, for some reason, basketball is the one sport, and I know I've said this before, but basketball is the one sport where I like college ball way more than pro ball. And, yeah, I love March Madness, love the NCAA tournament and all that jazz, but NBA just never really caught my attention. It was never much of an interest for me, so, sorry. No, I never watched it, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I heard the ending was horrible. So many people, so many friends of mine that were totally into that show, and they said, dude, if I watch one episode, I gotta watch like 6 or 7 in a row, because they just keep ending on these awesome cliffhangers, and it's just crazy. I want to see how this ends. And apparently the ending was so shitty that it made people regret the entire experience. I don't know. I didn't see the show. I'm just basing this off the reactions that I saw in my circle of friends. Maybe I'll watch it one day. But as for now, I haven't really gotten into it, and because I've heard so many negative things about the finale, it kind of, makes me not want to watch it. So, but who knows? I might watch it one day. I think that's fucking awesome. I mean, you're doing an Avengers movie. Who better to put them up against than Thanos? I mean, that practically writes itself, especially if they incorporate the Infinity Gauntlet into it. So, yeah, I've no problem with Thanos being the villain in Avengers 2. Not at all whatsoever. Probably not, unless the think tank over whoever handles the DC films or whatever, unless they completely change the way they do things, I don't see that movie ever happening. And if it does, it'll probably suck. That's just, the DC films, for the DC superheroes, except for Nolan Batman, which is done now. They really have nothing going for them. Hopefully Superman turns out well. The new trailers look promising, but for right now, they don't have a whole lot going for them. It's kind of sad when Marvel, they're getting ready to do Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm just sitting there going, oh, okay, I'll check that out. And DC, apparently, they have yet to do a Wonder Woman movie, and I kind of don't want them to, because I'm like, man, they're going to fuck that up. So, I don't even trust them to handle one of their best heroines, their best heroine, properly. So, as far as them ever doing, like, Green Arrow and Green Lantern in a film together, I don't see it happening, and if it does, it'll probably be horrible, like the Green Lantern movie was. So, yeah, that's that. I'm a really weird person. I really don't have any loyalty to any specific geographical area. So it's really weird to me. Like I said, the New York Giants is more of a family thing, but I don't root for the Yankees. I actually root for the Baltimore Orioles. And it's not because I live in Maryland either. It's because, for some reason, as a kid, Cal Ripken was my hero. I love Cal Ripken Jr. That dude was my hero. Had nothing to do with Maryland or anything. I just loved the Iron Man. I loved Cal Ripken, and because of that, by extension, I have to love the team as well. And I support the Baltimore Orioles all the way. They made the playoffs last year, so hooray! We finally did something good. We're actually on a bit of a streak. We, the year before last year, we stopped the Red Sox from getting into the playoffs. So we're having some good years now. We're starting to pile it on and end it well. So hopefully the Orioles are able to become somewhat significant. That would be nice to have that again. But yeah, big Baltimore Orioles fan. Hockey is not a sport I follow often, but I guess this is the one area. I live close to DC. I do support the Capitals. I think, don't really have anything against them. And, when it's hockey season, I do root for them. So I'm really all over the place. And, for years I actually hated the Baltimore Ravens because they beat the Giants in the Super Bowl. I've kind of gotten over that now. But and the Redskins, I root against them all the time because they're in the same division as the Giants. So my sports loyalties have nothing to do with geographic location. So that makes me a very, very odd person overall. But, yeah, I'm odd. So what? I would love to have Adrian Peterson. I love great running backs, and to have somebody as versatile and as, just a hard worker all around, and somebody with the heart and soul of Adrian Peterson. I would love to have that guy in Giants blue. And that guy totally deserved to be MVP last year. I remember, the talk was it was down to him or Peyton, and I was like, look, I love Peyton Manning, but he took a team that was already playoff caliber and, already had a good defense and really had a lot of the pieces in play. He just made them a little better. Adrian Peterson, without him, the Vikings not only would they have not made the playoffs, I don't think they would have even won 5 games last year. I think I could have counted on one hand the number of games they would have won had Adrian Peterson not been the tailback last year for them. That's how valuable he was. They would not have made the playoffs. I don't doubt that at all whatsoever. So Adrian Peterson totally deserved to be MVP last year, and I would love to have him as a Giant. I'd also love to have, he's on the back end of his career, but in his prime, I would have loved to have Troy Polamalu. That guy, oh my God, so awesome. There were times where he would it almost felt like he would beat he would get into the backfield before they'd hand the ball off to the running back. He was just amazing. He's starting to slow down a little bit now, but even so, I mean, I would still like to have him as a Giant because the kind of credibility and leadership that he brings. Somebody like a Clay Matthews, too. I love the way Clay Matthews plays. So I'm a very defensive-minded guy as well. So those are the players that I would think, too, as ones that I would love have, playing for the Giants. This is an easy one. Ryan Leaf. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, for those of you who don't remember or may not have been alive at the time, Ryan Leaf came into the NFL with a lot of hype. Like, a lot of hype. Like, it was down to him and Peyton Manning, and those were the two quarterback picks coming out of the draft that year. And the belief was that Leaf was more NFL ready at the time. The understanding was that Peyton was probably going to be the better overall product, which he was. But Leaf was the more NFL ready at that point in time, at the time of the draft. And then he got there, I think he won his first 2 or 3 games, and then he just fell off a cliff. And a lot of it had to do with his attitude. I think he came from, he was used to having people cater to him, and he was kind of a frat douche in college, and that personality does not translate to the NFL. It doesn't work in the real world. It doesn't work in the pros. And I think that really caused a lot of problems within the Chargers organization. He never really clicked. He never fit in to the NFL, and he never lived up to the high potential that was placed upon him. And I think he came in thinking that he was going to win a Super Bowl or two with the Chargers, and that it was going to be easy and he was just going to breeze right through it. So when he got faced with adversity, I don't think he knew how to handle that, and it ultimately led to his downfall in the NFL. And he was just a major, massive failure in the pros. And for a guy that came in with so much hype and was supposed to be really, really good, he was just an unmitigated disaster. Haunted Mansion. I can't believe Disney's actually thinking about rebooting that. Apparently, I did some research because I hadn't heard anything about it. Apparently, Guillermo del Toro's attached to it and stuff. And, he's a very imaginative person, great mind for filmmaking. I'm actually kind of looking forward to Pacific Rim, as I stated earlier. So we'll see how that goes. But I wasn't that excited for the first movie they did with Haunted Mansion. It's like, oh, it's based off of a ride. How clever. And I know Pirates of the Caribbean had its moments and whatever, but and the first movie was really good. But I just don't see much into it. I'm like, really? I don't really care. I'm probably not going to see it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I don't have much to say about it one way or the other. The Godzilla reboot I'm really excited for, and I hope it turns out to be the movie I've always wanted. I've always wanted this badass, big-budget Godzilla movie where he's a force of nature and he's treated like a real disaster that's taking place in the real human world. And it looks like that's the approach they're going to take. And actually, director Gareth Edwards, who is somewhat of an unknown director, his only notoriety came from an indie film that he did named Monsters. So when I heard that he was going to direct the new Godzilla movie, naturally I was like, well, I got to check this movie out to see what I'm dealing with here. Because I was so excited for the original American film back in the late 90s, but had I known that Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin were hacks, I wouldn't have been. It didn't register with me, my teenage brain, that, oh, these guys are hacks, you shouldn't trust them. And now it's just kind of like, yeah, I should have known better that movie wasn't going to be very good. So I wanted to know, it's like, all right, get a feel for Gareth Edwards, see how he handles movie monsters, see how he handles human drama within movie, monster movies and things of that nature. And the movie titled Monsters, I thought was good and showed signs of confidence from him, especially for a movie that's independently made, was made on a shoestring budget. Apparently the special effects for the creatures was done on a laptop and looked pretty damn good. So after watching that movie, I didn't think it was the greatest movie ever or anything like that, but after watching it, I kind of felt like, yeah, I can trust him with Godzilla. I think he'll do something good with it. So hopefully it turns out really well, because I'm really looking forward to it. I've actually been on a bit of a Godzilla kick lately. I've been watching a lot of the old Godzilla movies. So, yeah, I'm a really big fan of the Big G. And I hope for the best with the future reboot, because I think it could be really, 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 really good if done correctly. And hopefully I get the movie I've always wanted. So here's hoping. take the third hour off of Raw, less titles, less pay-per-views, more tag teams, and I would also make a concerted effort to kind of change the formatting of the show and change certain things that they do, like no more evil bosses, the backstage segments, the way they handle those, the way a lot of those are shot and handled with the magic camera that nobody can see, and opening up a promo or opening up a show with a really long promo that does nothing but set up a match for later in the show. To basically find a better way to budget TV time and use it to tell stories that are compelling rather than devoting so much time just to matchmaking or segments that aren't funny and don't make sense. Things like that. Probably when Mick Foley won the title the first time on that episode of Raw. I mean, that was just something that none of us ever thought would happen. And it was such a great, magical moment where the underdog finally got the big win and they had the big celebration and everything. It really did feel like the end of a movie or something. It was that cool and that well done. It's one of the few moments in wrestling history that kind of brings a tear to your eye because it's such this awesome, feel-good moment that was executed to absolute perfection. My favorite SummerSlam of all time is probably 1991 because that was my first wrestling pay-per-view of all time. So I have a lot of fond memories of watching that show. Some other ones I really liked. I was a big fan of 98. That one felt like a WrestleMania. I mean, if you weren't watching wrestling at the time, they really built up 98 like it was WrestleMania level. I mean, that show was huge. 99 had a lot of that as well. 2000 I thought was very good. 2002 was very good. That one's high up there. Trying to think. 2005 was very special because I was there live, and that one had a lot of great stuff too. Other than that, I can't really think of any that I really like. 97 I thought was pretty good. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, those are the really good ones that really stand out to me for one reason or another. But 91, just for all the nostalgia surrounding it and the fact that it was my first wrestling pay-per-view ever that I watched live on pay-per-view, that one pretty much holds up as my favorite by default. Truthfully, I would not book this match at all. I would put no thought into this match ever happening. I think, we got the match 800 times back in 2000. I have no interest in seeing it again. And, with The Rock being more of a special appearance guy, we don't even know if The Rock's ever coming back. And Triple H being a special appearance guy, I'd rather they be used for fresh matches rather than just doing the same old shit they were doing 15 years ago. So, I wouldn't even do the match at all. If I were in WWE Creative and that match was pitched, I would say, probably at costing me my job because, you disagree with Vince too many times. You're probably not going to last there too long. But I would say, no, that's stupid. We've seen the match 800 times. There's no reason to do it again. I wouldn't even put any thought into doing that match at all, period. Okay, kayfabe-wise, Cena's fucking God. I mean, that's why I laugh whenever they try to tell us he's the underdog. It's like, dude, he wins all the fucking time. He's like a 9,000-time champion. I mean, okay, he's 11-time WWE champion. He won the world title at least twice. So, okay, that's 13. And if you've held it that many times, it might as well be 100. So, I mean, he wins everything. He always comes out on top. He usually wins the big matches. Ultimately, no matter what feud he's in, he ultimately comes out on top in the end. Absolutely. And, that's why I always say, they will go out of their way to constantly tell us that Cena is the best of all time, because that's how they book him. And that's why I constantly say, if there's one person that's ever going to end the streak, it'll be John Cena, because he's the one guy I could see them giving that win to at this point in time. I think it's a good idea to keep them as a team because they showed when they split them up earlier in the year, which pissed me off. They split them up earlier in the year and they had absolutely no plan for them at all whatsoever. So they just floundered and became jobbers. And then they just magically put the team back together because they had nothing else for them, which just left me sitting here going, it's like, why'd you break them up in the first place? Yeah, I like the duo. I think they play off each other really well. I think whenever they're on TV and they have microphones together, it's fucking hilarious. I think they're great. I love that they're friends. I love, like, the whole best friend thing that they have going. I don't understand how them being best friends makes them heels. Like, Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler, it's like, oh, look at them, they're friends. And they've got beards and mustaches. Oh, look at them, they're stupid. That weird morality scale in the WWE. But, yeah, I really like the pairing. I think they're great. I think they're really entertaining, and I love having them as a duo, and I would keep them together for as long as possible. In my world, they'd be tag team champions by now, but, even if they don't win the tag titles, I do think they benefit being together, and it seems to guarantee them more TV time if they're together. So, again, speaking from when they split up earlier in the year. But yeah, I love the pairing. I love everything about them. I would keep the duo together for quite a while because I think that they have great chemistry with each other. I think they're awesome. Dean Ambrose, I think, largely because of his mic skills. I think Dean Ambrose is just head and shoulders above so many of the other talents that come in, and it's such a rare ability for him to be as good on the mic as he is. You don't see that too often with a lot of the young guys. I think Seth Rollins is a great worker. He's probably the best worker of the three. I think Roman Reigns is a great big guy with a great look. But I think when the Shield ultimately breaks up, I think Dean Ambrose is going to have more of a leg to stand on because he's great on the mic, and I think there's always going to be a place for somebody that's great on the mic, and I think it's going to help him establish himself better as a character because of that. Even if he doesn't work out as a wrestler, he could easily get a gig as a manager. I mean, there will always be a role for Dean Ambrose, no matter what he's doing, and I think that ultimately will help him have more longevity in wrestling. So, especially in the WWE. So yeah, that's my pick. I love Jim Cornette. As a manager, I think he's one of the best managers of all time. He was fantastic at that. In other areas, as far as, his opinions go, I love listening to him shoot on people because he just goes fucking nuts and it's hilarious. As far as his opinions, though, on wrestling, I agree with a lot of his general concepts about how wrestling needs to be about strong characters and building up fights between those strong characters and stuff like that. So a lot of his basic rules and concepts make a lot of sense and I think are really good. Sometimes he's a little too stuck in the past, a little too, stuck in the 80s with a lot of his ideas. I remember him going off on a rant once about, exposing the business and how nobody should do that and how back in my day, we used to, whenever we would go out and eat food, all the heels would travel together and all the faces would travel together. And I'm like, come on, we shouldn't. Wrestling should evolve beyond that. I think a lot of stuff like that. And I remember him talking once about how back in my day, if you were from Texas, that automatically made you a cowboy, an instant gimmick or something like that. I don't remember the exact wording, and things like that. I was like, well, that's a bit archaic, I think, and a lot of his more specific ideas, I think, are very archaic and don't really fit into the modern-day product. But a lot of his general ideas, I think, are very good and very sound. And, a lot of those timeless concepts that always work in wrestling, I think Jim Cornette, basic story structure and feuds, making them interesting, I think Jim Cornette can do that. But when he starts getting behind people like Matt Morgan and Roderick Strong, I start thinking, really, dude? Like, those are your favorites? Okay. I mean, Roderick Strong is world champion Ring of Honor. That was totally a Cornette move. I don't doubt that at all whatsoever. That had to have been his call. Because I can't imagine anybody else making it. Yeah, that's my basic, stance on Jimmy. I love Jim Cornette to death, though. Yeah, I think he's hilarious. I think he's a very lively personality, and the wrestling business is better off for having him around because, at the very least, it's always fun to listen to him talk. WrestleMania 30 is so far ahead, I can't really think of anything. Normally I'm the kind of guy that's like, I'll try and piece together a dream card out of whatever story they have in place and try to piece it together from there. I don't like to try and pull random matches out of thin air and say, it's like, I'd love to see, I don't know, CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan in an Iron Man match to unify the titles. when if the storylines that they're doing at the time don't really call for it. I'm always like a story plot thinking kind of guy, and I always like to take what they're doing right now and think ahead to the future. And right now, WrestleMania is so far ahead, it's hard to really piece anything together. I hope they don't do Rock and Brock, because I think that's really boring. I hope they don't do Brock and Taker, because I have no interest in seeing that. Hopefully they can come up with something a little bit more interesting. I hope to holy God they don't do Cena Rock 3. That would be just boring as fuck. So hopefully they're able to come up with some big matches, and fresh matches is basically what I would want, involving those big names. But as far as specific matches go, I couldn't really tell you anything that I'd like to see at this point, because it's way too far. WrestleMania 30 is so far off in the horizon, I'm barely even thinking about it. I first started watching TNA in 2004 when they got onto FSN for Impact. And it was nice having it around. I was like, oh, it's wrestling, it's different. I like that they had, a fucking time limit. Things that all wrestling matches should have. Otherwise, why even have a fucking timekeeper there? I had a lot of things in the formatting and making it very sporty, and I, instantly fell in love with AJ Styles and America's Most Wanted and Abyss and things like that. So there were a lot of things I liked about it early on. Ron Killings was getting a world title shot, and I'm like, really, this is your guy? Like, this is the guy. Jeff Hardy had come in, and he was drugged out of his fucking mind, and I was like, really, this is the guy you're gonna push? Okay. A lot of people complained about Jeff Jarrett holding the title. I'm like, well, it's either him or Hardy. I'll go with Jeff. Because Jeff looks like he can walk in a straight line. Hardy, looks like he's staring off into space right now. So, the main event scene was very, very weak at that point. But I did enjoy a lot of other facets of the show. And, it started in 2004. So that was when I first got into TNA. I think it's great when fans make their voices heard. I think, no fan should ever have to feel like they have to go along with whatever the company tells them to do. They can boo and cheer whoever the hell they want. That goes for WWE, that goes for TNA, that goes for Ring of Honor, that goes for any wrestling company out there. I don't like it when they try to manufacture and try to force it and, force the reaction that they want, and will go above and beyond the Call of Duty to try and get that desired reaction, rather than just naturally going with what the fans are saying. And I think it's great that the fans make their voices heard. I think it's great. Yeah, they don't like something, they have every right to boo it, and I'm not bothered by it at all. I'm not happy that they boo Cena all the time, because quite honestly, it's just, I'm used to it at this point. It's like, well, yeah, they boo him. It hasn't changed anything. I mean, he's still there. He's still the God Almighty. And, whatever. So it's like, oh, he got booed. Hooray. Although I was there at SummerSlam 05, which, if I recall correctly, that was the first time that the crowd started to turn on Cena. I don't recall it ever happening before that. There was a "Fuck You Cena" chant at One Night Stand a couple months earlier, but Cena wasn't on the show, so that almost doesn't count. But yeah, being in that crowd was awesome, because as far as I know, that was the first time that had ever happened. But it's only become the norm since then, and quite honestly, I'm just sick of seeing Cena altogether. I don't really care how the crowd reacts to him at this point. So, but yeah, it's cool that the fans get to voice their opinions. I think they can, like I said, they can boo and cheer whoever they want. That's cool. Good for them. Another Shield question. I don't know where they'll be a few years, or hopefully still together. I think the group is cool enough that you can probably get a few years out of them as a group together. Maybe, kind of break them off into singles and give them pushes individually, but keep the group as a faction and have them win titles. Maybe Ambrose would be, Intercontinental Champion or something, and maybe Reigns would be, maybe the other two would be tag team champions or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there. Of course, for that to mean anything, the belts would actually have to mean. So I don't even know who the Intercontinental Champion is. I've forgotten again. I have no idea who's holding that damn belt. Let me think. I don't know who the U.S. Champion is. Fuck. who's the TNA TV champion? I don't know who half the champions are. It's driving me crazy. It's It's like, fuck. That's how much belts mean nowadays. I don't know who half the champions are. That's fucking great. Woo! Hooray! But hopefully, my temptation would be to keep the Shield together for a while and try to find different ways to utilize them, and maybe have them go off and do individual things, but keep the group together and see how much you can get out of it. So, but that's just me. I just think the Shield is so cool that I hope it survives a few years. They're probably going to keep Team Hell No together for a while, and then once they lose the tag titles to the Shield, they'll probably start building up the split finally, and then finally do that match, Kane and Daniel Bryan, maybe at SummerSlam or something. After that, he'll probably get a WWE title shot at some point, maybe getting back into the world title picture, I don't know. I don't know about him being like a major star, like on a CM Punk or a John Cena type level, but they'll do the split. He'll probably be the one that turns heel, and then they'll probably try and get a few big matches out of him after that. Truthfully, I'm trying not to take the whole, all the rumors going around about The Rock and the WWE having heat with each other or whatever. I'm trying not to take that too seriously because, you can, if you read it on the internet, take everything you read with a grain of salt. I don't know what's going on there. I wasn't shocked that Rock was gone after WrestleMania. I expected him to be gone after he lost. If the story's true that he was upset that he had to put Cena over, that makes no sense because I'm like, what, you thought you were going to go over or what? I mean, I could have told you a year ago you were going to lose the rematch. I mean, come on. Or you were going to be slated to. So I don't know. Personally, I think Rock will be back at some point. He'll be back. Probably, to do his last match at WrestleMania 30 or whatever. Although personally, I wouldn't mind if he didn't come back because I'd like to see, fresher things done. And I kind of feel like, Rock was special for a while and they kind of got as much out of him as I would want them to get out of him. And, I can't really think of another, really hot match I'd like to see The Rock do. Unless they want to do Rock and Michaels, which is not going to happen. So, if Rock really is done and he's gone from WWE, I'm like, okay, good. That forces them to be creative and come up with some new ideas that are hopefully good. So, yeah, I'm not going to lose any sleep over The Rock leaving. At this point, there's nobody else. There's nobody else unless they stumble onto something red hot in the next year that could believably be a threat to Undertaker, like another Kane type of thing. I'm talking Kane 97, like when Kane was viewed as unbeatable. Like that level of character. Unless they're able to create something like that, I don't see anybody being a threat to the streak unless it's Cena. Because he's the one guy I can see them giving the win to at this point. Because, would anybody buy it if Ryback faced Undertaker next year? Would anybody honestly think that Ryback's going to beat him? Especially the way they're treating Ryback now and the way they've treated him the last few months. I really can't think of anybody. Punk is clearly never going to do it. I mean, we all knew that. Ziggler, no. Orton, no. Sheamus, no. There's nobody. I, honest to God, can't think of anybody that would be a legitimate threat to the streak. Or at least somebody that, if they ended the streak, it would be anticlimactic if they did. Like, if Ryback, as he is now, beat Undertaker at, say, WrestleMania 29, I'd have laughed. I'm like, really? You had this guy jobbed for 4 months and now he ends the streak? It's like, come on. But there's really nobody. I mean, they'd really have to create magic with somebody to really make me believe it, except for Cena. Cena's the only one that I can honestly see ending the streak at this point. Man, it's funny you mentioned that because I was just talking to talking about 3MB with a friend of mine the other day, and we were like, man, remember when Drew McIntyre was the hot shit? Like, when they practically anointed him as their next big world champion on the rise, there was a point in time where it was like, Drew McIntyre is going to be world champion. It's going to happen. He was one of those guys. I didn't even really like him that much. I just thought it's like, oh yeah, he's their next guy, and that's who they're going to run with. And it didn't pan out. Personally, though, I think 3MB is funny. I think they're a funny, heel jobber gimmick. And I think they're actually, whenever they do vignettes or something, I think they're actually kind of funny. So I have no problem with the act. I think they're modern-day Mean Street Posse in a way, where it's just this really silly act and they lose all the time. And they're kind of funny. Mean Street Posse, by the way, was one of the best comedy acts in the history of wrestling. I love the Mean Street Posse. The theme music alone is the most hilarious thing I've ever heard in my life. Just something about a street gang from Greenwich, Connecticut. I mean, that is comedy gold. I mean, that's just great. Yeah, should any of them get pushed? I don't know. I feel like they already tried with Drew, and it didn't really work out. And Heath, I don't really see anything in him outside. I mean, they tried doing stuff with him. I mean, he was part of Nexus and everything, and they tried giving him a few tag team runs with other guys. This is the first thing he's done that's even remotely entertaining. It's just him being a goof, so might as well just keep him a goof, because I don't see anything else in him outside of that. And Jinder Mahal, I think, is boring as fuck. And he's the third guy in 3MB. That's all he is. He is boring as fuck. So no, I would not push him unless he has some major resurgence or rebirth or something of a Rocky Maivia to The Rock level type of thing here. So for right now, I wouldn't give any of them major singles pushes. I think they're fine just being the lovable losers that they are. I'm getting a lot of Shield questions here. It's pretty awesome. I mean, the Shield is, they're the fucking shit, so why not? If they do that, I think that'd be a little anticlimactic, because it's like, alright, you keep the Shield unbeaten, you got the streak, and then Undertaker beats all three of them. By himself. Yeah, that would be a complete waste of the Shield, I think. And, because we all know Taker would beat them in that situation. And even if the Shield won, it's like, oh, congratulations, it took three to beat one guy, and that's what ended the streak. So, I don't think it would be a very good idea to do that. I think the Shield's big fall should happen against three people, and let that be the big burn-off match, whatever it is. I don't know what their ultimate plan is, but yeah, doing that I think would be very. I think it would do a lot of damage to the Shield and be just a complete waste of their whole build-up, and I think it would be an uneventful match for Undertaker to have at WrestleMania for the streak, because nobody would... I don't think anybody would think that he would lose that match. Because, you just expect him to beat all three guys. But, yeah, that's just the way it is. Jerry Lawler, because that was just insulting. I mean, Hardcore Holly, you can say what you want. At least he was like a guy that looked like he was in reasonably good shape and athletic, and at least there was a storyline hole there that they could plug up with, him wanting to get revenge on Brock for breaking his neck or whatever. And at least Brock fucking killed him, and that was the match. Jerry Lawler, at over 60 years old, got pushed to the top of the card, beating everybody. He was treated like he was this unstoppable killer, and he's this fat old guy that's just... I'm just watching it, I'm just like, really? This guy that's been a commentator for 20 years is now kicking everybody's asses, and they wonder why nobody gets over. They wonder why they have so much trouble creating new stars. You basically just told me that a fat old commentator is better than, most of your roster. That's basically what you did with that whole thing. And it was all done for the sole purpose of making Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler the main attraction of WrestleMania 27. Again, I will never understand why that was their plan. I will never understand why that was the driving force of everything. I just don't understand any of what went on during that entire period. I'm like, who is smoking the crack in WWE Creative? And who... It must be Vince McMahon, who thought that this was just an awesome idea. let's have the two commentators feud, and that will be the main feud for the better part of a year. And Jerry Lawler's going to get title shots out of this. And it was one of those things where I was sitting there watching the show just with my jaw hanging out. Like, I got nothing. What can I say to this? It's just mind-bogglingly terrible. And, again, the Hardcore Holly thing, that only lasted, a month? And it built up to the Royal Rumble, and it was just a throwaway title match anyway. This went on for about a fucking year. Just Jerry Lawler being front and center on TV all the time. So that to me was much, much worse. The funny thing about that is that people say that 2005 was the golden age for TNA, and that was when they were at their best. I totally disagree. Maybe when they first got on to Spike TV, and, the show was red hot at that point, towards the end of the year, maybe. But, I think in 2005, I remember the first 5 or 6 months of Impact on FSN where Dusty Rhodes was booking, and it was fucking horrible and really boring and really cartoony. I mean, Triton and Phi Delta Slam were running around. Gimmick matches galore, and Russo was not around at this point. This was Dusty booking, and there were gimmick matches up the ass. Which card was it? Well, a Lockdown was created during this period, and you know how much I love Lockdown. Destination X that year, I remember, every match had to be a gimmick match. I think there was a Bull Rope match, an Ultimate X match, and they all had stupid names. It was like, alright, it's not a lumberjack match. It was like, God, I forget what it was called. They all had, stupid names. Another one, I remember this one. It's like there was a Falls Count Anywhere match between Jeff Hardy and Abyss. It's like, no, it's not a Falls Count Anywhere match. It's a Final Assault match. Fucking fuck. But he gimmicked the hell out of everything, and everything was so, low rent and cartoony and awful, and that was Impact. And yes, you had your great matches, like some of the X Division matches. I'm not saying that there weren't great matches during that period, but I just remember the overall show being just really bad and really hard to watch when Dusty was booking. And then you had, after Dusty left, FSN, Impact's contract with them was over, and Impact was not on TV until they got to Spike. So there was a good 3 or 4 months there where they were not on TV. And that's what I remember. A lot of people say, a lot of that stuff that they did, the pay-per-views and the shows and everything was very, very good. Yeah, but it wasn't on TV. That, to me, is really sad. And it just made me sit there going, it's like, wow, that's really pathetic. You broadcast your shows on the internet? That's really, really sad. And really, really pathetic. And it's like, wow, you're actually doing pay-per-views too? What's the point? Nobody's watching these shows that are on the internet. And they were broadcasting Impact on the internet. I'm dead fucking serious. I remember watching a few of them. And I just sat there the whole time. I was like, oh God. October cannot get here quick enough. It's like they need a fucking spark here. And yes, the Unbreakable match was very good. And yes, there were X Division matches that were really good and some tag matches that were really good. And I'm not saying that there weren't, but the overall experience for me in TNA, you had 5 or 6 months of Dusty shitty booking, and then a summer of no TV. And that's what I remember 2005 for. Once I got on to Spike TV, it was great. And that'll lead me into my favorite year of TNA period, not just since 2005, but my favorite year of TNA period was 2006. I thought the show was much hotter. I thought the X Division was the hottest it ever was. You had AJ Daniels and Joe at the top, and you had a bunch of guys underneath them that really made the division look like it had a lot of depth. The Petey Williams and the Chris Sabins and Sanjay Dutts and Alex Shelley. Oh my God, Alex Shelley. He should have been their Chris Jericho, because the paparazzi production stuff he did was amazing, especially when they paired him up with Nash. I mean, that was just some awesome shit. That's how awesome TNA was in 2006. Kevin Nash was legitimately the best part of the show. On a really, really good show, Nash was the best part of the show. That says a lot of what they were doing at the time. The tag division was very strong. Team 3D had come in, and they were fresh upon arrival. AMW was at the top. You had AJ and Daniels ultimately form a team, and they were very good. Team Canada was around. They were very good. LAX was starting to find themselves, and they were really good. Actually, the LAX James Gang feud, the matches sucked, but the storyline and the promos were actually really, really good. So at least the TV was good. trying to think of some other things that they did. The main event scene was much better, especially with Christian Cage around. Sting was around, and Sting was still good. He's not, the kind of fat, old, always wearing a t-shirt Sting that we see in 2013. He was actually good. Abyss was probably the best he ever was at that point. So yeah, they did a lot of really good stuff in 06, especially the first half of the year. I thought the first half of 06 was very, very good. And of course there was Samoa Joe, who was ultimately moved into the heavyweight ranks. And I really liked his feud with Scott Steiner early on. I mean, they did a lot of great stuff in the first half of 06. And I thought creatively that was the best TNA ever was. That first 6 months of 2006, that was my favorite period for TNA. Ever in the entire company's history, and ever since then, they never quite been able to be as hot as they were at that point, in my opinion. The show hadn't been consistently that good since, let's say October when they first got on the Spike until about Slammiversary of 06. We'll say that was their hot streak of just excellent television and just really hot product all around. It was really a very, very good show. I would say the highlight reel. I think Jericho's personality really brought a lot into that talking segment, and I like the Jeritron 5000. I thought that was a nice decoration, and he seemed to be the only one that really fit into the talk show type of format, because they tried desperately to recreate Piper's Pit immediately after its success and once Piper was out of the picture. And Piper's Pit was so great and had so many great moments, but I remember they tried the Heartbreak Hotel and the bit with Jerry Lawler, the King's Court. There was the Funeral Parlor. There was the Barber Shop. There were so many other knockoffs out there, and none of them really clicked in my eyes. The only one that really, to me, was worth anything was Chris Jericho's highlight reel. And plus, he did it at a time when he was, he started doing it at a time when he was on the back end, and he was kind of sort of being phased out of the main event picture and stuff. So that at least gave him something to do and gave him something to play with, rather than just, continuing his usual Intercontinental title floundering that he was accustomed to by that point. So, yeah, I thought the highlight reel was really, really good. At the very least, I thought the set was really cool. I can't tell you what John Cena truthfully feels. I don't really know. I do think it does bother him, though, that large portions of the audience just hate his guts. I think he would really like for the netmarks to really like him, and it's just not going to happen that way. I just kind of get that vibe sometimes watching him with some of the insider jokes that he makes, like the heel turn joke that he made the night after WrestleMania. I think he really wants the Smarks to like him, and it's just not going to work. And I think that kind of, I don't know if it pisses him off. I think it sticks in his craw a little bit that he can't get that universal support when he's basically just doing what he's told to do. But yeah, part of me kind of feels sorry for John, because he is working with shitty material most of the time. But yeah, I think it probably bothers him a little bit. Yeah. One more Shield question. I love it. What better way to end this? If I were booking the Shield, I would have started from the beginning as all right, they have to have a motivation. And I think that's the one thing they're really lacking right now, is that they're just kind of saying we're here to right injustice, and nobody knows what the fuck that means. And it drives me crazy, because it's I don't think the WWE knows what it means. I think they just go out there and say it and the fans will buy it. It's Kane embracing the hate all over again, where I have no idea what the fuck Kane was talking about. I still don't. Cena, you need to embrace the hate. What does that mean? If you held a gun to Cena's family and told him to embrace the hate, or embrace the hate or I'll shoot your family, how is Cena gonna do that? I have no idea what Kane was fucking talking about there. How does Cena tangibly do that? And of course that whole storyline was stupid, and I'm feeling the same thing with the Shield. They just have them go out there and say we're here to right injustice and expect people to just buy it, and they don't even really know what it means themselves. Personally, if I were doing that, I would just have them either be paid mercenaries for, like they were with Paul Heyman and CM Punk for that short while there, or the whole injustice thing, define that as we're the indie guys that got overlooked, and we're going to take it out on the quote-unquote entertainers and the WWE Vince McMahon darlings, like the Cenas, like the Rybacks, like the Sheamuses, and that's their motivation for beating them up. It's like, look, these are the guys that got handpicked and got, fed the silver spoon, and we're here to make sure that our ilk, our guys, get the pushes that they deserve. But, they're not really doing it. I mean, they're attacking Daniel Bryan, too, so it's like, if you're standing up for the indie guys, you can't attack Daniel Bryan. So there's not a whole lot of... So I would definitely give them a motivation. And as far as who takes them down, you definitely need to build up a strong threesome to ultimately take them down. I have no idea who that would be. My fear is that they're going to have DX do it, which would be horrible. But I don't know why. I just got this idea in my head. It's like, DX reunion, and they're going to beat the Shield. I just have this odd premonition that that's going to happen, which would be awful if they did that. But I would build up some new baby faces to take them down. And... I don't know who that would be. I'm just throwing ideas out. But you have to have like a plan and a destination point for this whole angle to have any kind of purpose or merit. But to me, like I've said, it feels like they're just kind of making it up week to week, and they don't really know what the ultimate goal is with them. But, hopefully they figure something out. And for right now, I think the Shield's entertaining enough on their own, and hopefully that'll carry them for a little while. But, those are the things I would definitely do with the Shield. Just give them a motivation and an ultimate set of good guys to ultimately defeat them and take them down.